Hey guys, welcome to coverage of night 2 of Pro Wrestling Noah's N1 tournament. Now, on night 1, I droned on for quite a while. It was over an hour and a half long. I covered non-tournament matches. We're going to try to shorten these videos a little bit for you folks. I want to do a good job in covering this amazing tournament, but we're not going to discuss non-tournament matches. They're still worth watching, but we're not going to discuss them. And I'm going to try to do a summary of the matches instead of blow by blow like I do a lot of the times. The first match of night 2 was Go Shiozaki coming off a loss versus Anthony Green, who is also coming off a loss. So this was a big match for both guys. It was a friendly match. Green comes in here, wanted to shake hands. Go Shiozaki obliged him. So we knew we were going to get a sportsmanlike contest, which is most of the time in Noah anyway. But Green did a good job. He took down Shiozaki several times. He seemed to realize that may be a key to victory, is to wear him down over a stretch of time rather than just attack him with power moves. Because anytime Green tried to get into a striking battle, a chop battle, a forearm battle, Shiozaki would just take one step back, a half a step back, and look at him and shake his head and be like, no, kid, that ain't going to do it. But sometimes Green would try it. He'd get in there and try to exert his power or something, but it never worked, and Shiozaki would end up chopping the living hell out of him, as you see there. Green did utilize a nice tactic, I felt, when he took Shiozaki out of the ring. Dove on him over the top rope, knocked him down, and tried to work him over on the outside. Shiozaki did gain a little bit of control while they were out there, though, and had Green against the ring post and went to chop him. And if you know Shiozaki at all, you know that he's one of the hardest choppers in all of professional wrestling today. Green ducked this chop here, as you see, and he hit the corner post. I'll try to keep my chair out of the way of viewing the screen. He hit the corner post, and that had to hurt. I had to hurt like hell with the level of power that Shiozaki uses in his chops. Now, Green then began to work his hand over. Brilliant. If you take Shiozaki's chops away, you're taking a big part of his game away. And that may sound silly if you're talking about other people's chops, but this man can knock people to the ground with one chop. So intelligently, Green began to work over Shiozaki's hand, slamming it on the ring mat, slamming it on the guardrail, doing whatever he could to further take out the hand of Shiozaki. But Green quickly rolled Shiozaki back into the ring. I felt it was a little too quick. I felt like he could have worked that hand over, stomped it a little more, worked it on the outside a little more, maybe threw it back into the ring post or something. A little brutal, a little heelish, I guess, if you will. But Green only did like 2 things to the hand, rolled him back in, and hit him with this walking, talking, flying maneuver that he does, where he twists and turns out of the corner and dives. It was too early for that. Shiozaki ducked it, and Green is down, and Shiozaki starts, coming back with some power moves. And here's what we talked about yesterday, if you recall. I said you'll see 2 things in Pro Wrestling Noah that most of the wrestlers do in their strategic approach to their matches. One is a cravat. The second one is a variation of this move, where they get an opponent down and bend him backward with a chokehold, with an underhook under the chin, what have you, while having the knee in their back, the smaller of their back, the center of their back, the top of the back near the neck. Every wrestler, or most wrestlers in Noah, use a variation of this move. You can tell in their training, they see it as vital, as important. And if you look at it here, you can see it is very painful looking. And this is what I like about Noah. They will sell moves like this as being important rather than just being some transitional rest hold, as too many Americans like to call things like this. This works really well. Green tries to come back and fire up with chops again. And there you see what I was talking about a minute ago. Shiozaki's just like, no, sorry, ain't gonna work. Now, that's not saying Green doesn't chop hard. He does. He's a good hitter. He's a good striker. But we're talking about Shiozaki here, who gets Green in the corner and begins those machine gun chops to show Anthony Green, this is how you chop, buddy. And he does a good job. Such a job that Green comes out of the corner and goes to his knees, but recovers shortly thereafter and hits a flying dropkick, a missile dropkick off the top rope onto Shiozaki, and follows that up shortly after with his walking, talking, flying move, where you have to see this. He just stands in the corner like normal and takes a step or 2 out into the side rope while turning and diving at the same time. It's cool looking, and this time it worked. It hit Shiozaki and took him down. Green then does his flip where he Normally it would look like a belly to back kind of toss, but as Green tosses his opponent, he puts extra emphasis on the toss and flips his opponent over so they land on their face. And he hits that on Giazaki. Looks pretty good here. But Giazaki fires back with a twisting hammer, a twisting chop to the neck of Green. That takes him down pretty hard. And they go at it for some time after this. Green looked good here. Green is good. He's won me over for sure. But he's wrestling one of the best ever in a match after he lost to one of his biggest rivals. So, I mean, it's going to be tough to overcome. But Green does things like this, gets him in the corner, sits him on the top rope, and looks like he's going for a superplex, a super brain buster, if you will. He's working Giazaki over, trying to get this done, but now Giazaki reverses this, and this is always impressive. This is something like similar to what Michael Elgin would do to guys when they were outside the ropes, and he would power lift, suplex them back in. Giazaki does a similar thing in the corner. I've seen him do it numerous times, even with much bigger guys, where it looks like he's going to be superplexed, but instead he will deadlift power that opponent who's trying to superplex him up into the air and pretty much toss him off in a twisting move where he just sort of twists him in the air and comes down. He hits a big lariat here. Big lariat. What happened is he missed the right arm lariat. Green ducked it, and he turns around and instantly comes back with a left. But because it was such a short lariat, it didn't hold Green down. Green is back up. He comes in with a big high lifting knee. He lifts his right knee hard into the chin and the jaw of Go Giazaki, which looked pretty good for him at that point. But as they get in a suplex position, and Giazaki gets Green up in a suplex, he hits what he calls his go flasher. That means when Giazaki has you up in a suplex position and bringing you down, he lets you go and turns around and clotheslines you the rest of the way down. It's a powerful move that he calls the go flasher, and it almost always sets up for this right-handed running lariat that he learned from Stan Hansen, the man himself, practically taking the head off of Anthony Green and getting the victory. This was a good opening match. Green looked great, even though he's down 2 losses now. This is incredible experience for him. When he returns to the States, he'll be all the better for it. I mean, he will shine, having worked in pro wrestling, Noah, and won, my God, for sure. But here you see the two men embrace and sportsmanship. Giazaki appreciated the match and the effort that Anthony Green put forth. But he's your winner of Night 2, Match 1, Go Giazaki. Good stuff. Second match of Night 2 is Satoshi Kojima taking on Kinya Okada. Again, both guys coming off losses, so this is important to both guys. Kinya Okada started this match crazy aggressive. Now, you see this from these young guys a lot in pro wrestling, Noah, and all over the world, where they get in there against a legend like Kojima, and a legend gets tossed around a lot, but Kojima is a legend. There's no doubt about that. But, man, let me tell you, Okada just was all kicks and fisticuffs and everything he could do. And you could see Kojima was frustrated. Kojima was beaten down pretty good the first couple minutes of this matchup. Okada's just nailing everything he has, and it's working. It's chopping the big man down. It's taking the legend out. Of that, there is no doubt. But the minute he missed one, the minute one of those kicks were blocked, and they were, Kojima took over. Kojima, now what you've done is you've woken the sleeping giant. You've angered the legend, and he's going to come at you hard. He's going to be like, all right, boy, this is what we're going to play. That's fine. I'll play this. I played this game with people bigger than you. And Kojima just takes this kid down and takes him to school and brings out the machine gun chops and all of his arsenal and just takes Kinya Okada out. Even early in the match, nails this leaping top rope elbow drop. I mean, Kojima is known for this. This is one of his moves. But this was in the first, less than 10 minutes of the match. He's nailing this and signaling that the match is over. That's how motivated Kojima got. But, to his credit, Kinya Okada, in probably one of the best matches I've ever seen from him here, in all honesty, he fires back. He comes back with a backward mule kick and takes back over on Kojima, nailing a big drop kick, tossing him to the outside and going to work on him out there, including throwing him into the guardrail and other such matters, as you see there. Now, for some strange reason, Kinya Okada decides to get back in the ring. Now, of course, you want to beat the 20 count, but it wasn't even close. Number 2, he took his time. It's like he was debating it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Kojima rocked on the outside, and of course you can't win on the outside unless you get a count out, and Kojima wasn't hurt that badly. So it's almost like you could feel Kenya Okada's thought process here. He's on the apron and he's thinking, do I get back in the ring? Do I come back? Do I break the count and come back out and do some more damage? It's not that long of a pause, but it was, 5-10 seconds of contemplation, it seemed like, where Kojima recovered and come back and nailed a lariat to the legs of Kenya Okada, as you can see there. I mean, it was pretty brutal. It took Kenya Okada down to the point that this is one of the most wicked moves in all of professional wrestling, in my opinion. Okada is down after that lariat to the legs. Okada gets lifted up by Kojima and DDT'd on the ring apron. Now, when I say DDT'd on the ring apron, you can see what I mean here. I don't mean Kojima falls back on the ring apron with a DDT. He jumps down to the floor while grasping his opponent's head, and it hits the apron with all of his body weight going down to the floor, as you see there. As you see here, Kojima's feet aren't even on the ground yet. He's on his way down. And how this doesn't end matches, well, this didn't end a match because, honestly, Kojima let him lay there entirely too long. He let him lay on the outside. It's almost like, I don't know if Kojima needed the rest or if he was just, reveling in what he has successfully done. But Kojima does toss him back into the ring after laying on the outside for a little while and does deliver another DDT. But have you ever seen a fight in MMA or what have you, even on a street, where someone gets woken up after being knocked out? Do you know what I mean? Like, someone gets knocked out and then the guy who does the knockout climbs back on him and starts firing away again, and the new punches after the knockout actually wake the opponent up. Sort of what I think happened here. Kojima had a chance to win this. He could have taken a count out. I really believe Okada was out after that DDT on the apron. But Kojima rolls him back into the ring and maybe could have pinned him, because I still think he was pretty groggy. But instead he picks him up and delivers another DDT, and you might think, well, my God, that's really going to put him out. I think that woke him up. I think he was out, he was dazed, he was completely gone, and Kojima made a mistake here with that other DDT and woke him up. And Kenya Okada's back in this. So what he does here is he gets him in a move I tell you is very popular in pro wrestling, Noah, as well. Kojima gets him in a cravat. It's just something that you'll see a lot in Noah. It's worse than a headlock. It's where your arms are twisted, your neck is turned. It's a pretty brutalized way of holding somebody. But again, Okada has been woken up and he fires back with kicks. And I'm talking the kicks that leveled and took down Satoshi Kojima. Okada is getting better and better. He nails a big gut wrench suplex, and then they get in a position of a brainbuster, or a back suplex, a vertical suplex, if you will. And they battle it back and forth here for some time, really trying to gain the control. And Kojima can't lift Okada. Okada can't lift Kojima. This goes back and forth for some time until Kojima has had enough and hits his cozy cutter on Okada. Doesn't get the 3 count, though, and Okada is back up. Kojima bounds into the ropes trying for the lariat. He wants to end this matchup. Like you saw if you saw his match with Inamura, what Okada will do is he will use your own momentum against you and catch you in this bridging roll-up. And that's what he did. This is how he got the win over Inamura. This is how he got into the N1 tournament. And it was a little concerning whenever Kojima bounds off the ropes, I think twice, and is coming in for a big lariat, and Okada catches him in this roll-up bridge. But he does bust out of it. Kojima isn't pinned. But Okada's not done. He gets him in a suplex where he bridges up and tries to get the pinfall, but still not enough. You think Okada might be down and out after those 2 moves, but no, he hits an enziguri and knocks Kojima in the back of the head, but Kojima isn't pinned from that. He gets up and is pretty much fully recovered from it, throws off his elbow support, his elbow brace, and nails the lariat and gets the win over Kenya Okada in a great second match. Again, I probably didn't do it justice here, but this was one of the best, if not the best, Kenya Okada match I have ever seen. He really looked like he had Kojima's number a few occasions, but he's still younger. He's still making a little bit of mistakes. Nothing major, but I think Kojima made the biggest mistake here, and that's crazy to say coming from the fact that he won. But whenever he had Okada out, I believe he was knocked out, and he woke him back up with another DDT in the ring. I think he really ran the risk of losing this matchup, and I think he knew it. I think he knew what happened, and that's why he didn't play much nonsense after that fact. And when he realized that Kinya Okada was fully back in the match and kicking the life out of him, he finally got into a position where he could nail that lariat and win the match, giving him the 2 points. Another good match, night 2 of the N1. Third match of the N1 victory tournament is Kazuyuki Fujita versus Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. Should be an interesting matchup. I predicted that Fujita would win this one easily. Let's see. Begins by both guys just rolling around on the mat, trying to gain control. This is Fujita's game. He's an MMA master. He's an Inoki guy, the last disciple of Inoki. He's going to try to take you down and do some laying and praying, if you will. I don't like to call it that because you don't get points in wrestling, so you're not going to hold a guy down for points. But if you're familiar with MMA, which I used to be a huge MMA fan, not so much anymore, guys, that's what it's called. When a guys just get you down and try to hold you down. And that is what Fujita tries to do. But instead of going for points, he is trying to wear a guy down. Just the weight of someone like Fujita on you. And he does grab limbs and twist and turn and try to yank some ligaments around. Goes to the outside where Fujita dominates it, slamming Wagner Jr.'s head into the mat and really taking a lot out of him. Getting him back into the ring and throwing him around. This was the Fujita show for most of this match, honestly. Boston Crab, single leg Boston Crab, figure 4. Fujita's just punishing Wagner. Honestly, now Stu and Mark on the English commentary pointed this out too. It felt like Fujita was only going about 50%, at least aggression-wise. It felt like Fujita came in here overlooking Wagner Jr. and sort of playing around with him. I really think that was the case. While he looked tough, he looked mean, he looked badass as ever, and I like the new singlet personally. He didn't feel as aggressive and as just mean as he normally can be. And the only reason I could think of is that he just looks at Wagner Jr. as easy, as simple. And that's really how it came across to me. Wagner Jr. even got to a point here, this made me chuckle, where he got to the ropes to get out of Fujita's figure 4, and Fujita wanted to drag him back out into the center of the ring. But Fujita, much like you'll see smaller guys do in battle royals, clung to the bottom rope for dear life. And he's not a small guy. But I see this in small guys in battle royals a lot of the times. They'll do this. They'll cling to the ropes like this. You're not throwing me out. You're not throwing me out. Wagner Jr. had been so beat up by this time that he just clung to the rope for dear life. And when I say beat up, I don't mean terribly. I don't mean like he was injured in any real way. I just think that Fujita's 50% was enough to really wear down Wagner Jr. pretty significantly. So imagine if Fujita would have went all out on this. Here he gets him in the modified figure 4, sort of like a prison lock, but more of a figure 4, a seated figure 4. If you can see how he has his legs in the exact figure 4 position, but he's just sitting down on it instead of rearing back. Makes some sense, gives you a little bit more control, allows you to get in your opponent's face like this, which Fujita loves to do, to try to intimidate guys, screaming at them, telling them to give up, telling them that they're not going to win. Turns it into a regular figure 4 and controls Wagner for a while. Wagner does get out and delivers a big enziguri type move to Fujita in the corner, kicking him in the back of the head and taking him down. And then this was probably Wagner's best move, meaning it looked like it took a lot out of Fujita. When he did this running, rolling cannonball, and you can see Fujita trying to brace, trying to save his face a little bit here with his hand. It really took a lot out of Fujita. I mean, Wagner Jr. is a big dude. And when he comes in and hits a move like this, while it's not the most impressive move in the world, it works. And I think it took a lot out of Fujita there. And then he follows that up with a frog splash, which Stu and Mark on the English commentary compared to RVD, which it was pretty good. I don't know if it was that good, but for a man the size of Wagner Jr. to hit a frog splash, and this took a lot out of Fujita too. So you had that rolling cannonball followed up by the frog splash. I think disoriented the beast. I think just having that much weight fall on him full force twice in a row had him a little bit dazed. they get into some blows then, which I think was a mistake on Wagner Jr.'s part because, look, in a striking contest, there's few that are going to stand up to Fujita. And while Wagner Jr. did a decent job, just wasn't quite enough. You can see Fujita taking Wagner Jr. down here, then going for the power bomb. He's putting him in a position where he wants the beast bomb. He wants to end this. But I think that goes back to what I just said a minute ago. I think that cannonball and that frog splash dazed him enough. No, he's not out on his feet or anything that bad, but I think it shook him up enough for him to be like, no, I gotta get in this game and just take this guy out. But it wasn't to be. Wagner Jr. did a backflip and got out of it, and I think that frustrated Fujita quite a bit as well, as he followed that up with 3 lariats in a row. Now, they aren't Go Jiyozuki level lariats. They're shorter, but this guy is probably more powerful than Jiyozuki, so they're still very good lariats. They're still very strong lariats. But as he came in for what I believe would have been a 4th one, Wagner Jr. gets him in a wheelbarrow type of roll-up, where they are all hands spring back with their legs around the waist of their opponent and roll up for a pinning combination. Look, I'm going to be honest, this was sloppy as hell. Wagner Jr.'s a big man to be trying to hit a wheelbarrow roll-up. It didn't work out well. Fujita captured one of his legs and looked like he was going to turn it into an ankle lock or something. But Wagner Jr. did manage to still roll Fujita over onto his back, even though he captured him with 1 leg out of 2 in this wheelbarrow move. You have to see this. I can't capture it on a screenshot. But Wagner Jr. managed to roll Fujita up in this sloppy, messed up, ugly looking wheelbarrow roll up and pinned him. Yeah, that's right. He pinned him. I know those of you who hate Fujita, and there's many of you out there, are cheering this on and think this is great, but this was just, it looked like a mess. I can't believe, I thought Fujita's one shoulder was up at the 2 count. It just was sloppy. In my personal opinion, just peeking behind the curtain a little bit, I think that they should have reset. I think that they should have done something like allowed Fujita to get him in an ankle lock and then gone back to this move where he could actually hit it successfully. Mark and Stu could have put that over on commentary. Oh, he didn't quite capture that wheelbarrow, or I think that's what that move's called. And then just wrestle another minute or 2 and then hit it again and be like, oh, you could see, Mark and Stu again could be like, oh, he did it successfully that time. He was looking for that earlier. Here, he got it. Oh my God, he gets the pin. And that's the direction they wanted to go. But just hooking that sloppily the way that they did just didn't look good. It looked like the referee sort of didn't see the shoulders very well, and it didn't come across very good at all. It's a huge win for Wagner Jr. Look at the face on Fujita's making as Wagner celebrates on the turnbuckles. It's probably legit. Not that he lost, but that he lost like that. That's exactly how I feel, Fujita. I'm sitting here on my desk chair like, that's how that's match ending. Oh, it's not the end of the world, whatever. Life moves on, but it was sloppy. It was ugly. And having Fujita suffer his first loss in, God, I don't know how long, that way, doesn't sit right with me. I'm not angry, but it just doesn't sit right. But we'll move on. Next matchup in the N1 Victory Tournament Night 2 was Keno, the leader of Congo, baby, taking on Masaki Mochizuki. Now, these guys went at it quick and heavy with the kicks immediately. These two have a similar fight style. I would argue that Keno's the better wrestler, but Mochizuki is not to be taken lightly. You saw him last time against Hideki Suzuki trying to take out his rehabilitated knee. Here, against Keno did take control early, but as you can see, this is an example of what the first several minutes of this match was like. It was just, this is not any particular move that Keno has locked in here. It was both guys trying desperately to take the other one down, take the other one out, and anyway, with kicks, with submission holds, with roll-ups, with leg picks, with everything they could get done just to get one down. And here's Keno again, working him over. He does win this battle to take Mochizuki down, gets him in a leg lock, and works it into a chin lock as well. So he's got his legs tied up in his chin. It's sort of like a modified or not completely completed STF here, with Mochizuki getting close to the ropes. Mochizuki does fight back and starts to work over Keno's midsection. Very much like he worked over Hideki Suzuki's knee, Mochizuki, about 3 minutes into this match or so, maybe 4 minutes, starts working over Keno's midsection, his abdominal region, just continuously, starting here, draping him over the rope. I mean, he did this hard. He dropped him on the top rope. Very difficult, very, very hard. And they went out to the ring, and Mochizuki running in and just landing a fist. You can barely see it there. He took that fist and landed it into the midsection of Keno as he continues to work over the abdominals. Ran Keno midsection first, stomach first, into the ring apron. Hung him up over the outside guardrail and then jumped on top of him and just threw his body weight on him to press harder into those midsection. Comes back in and flies down with a big chop onto Keno's midsection. Here you see it, a better look at it. He actually jumps up into the air high, almost like a Ninja Mac thing, and comes down with a huge chop to Keno's midsection. This just continues to be the theme from Mochizuki. He figures he can wear Keno out, pin him with his dragon suplex is what I'm thinking, because when he takes him over and bridges and Keno's own weight is like sort of cut in half at his midsection, he may not have the breath or the strength to kick out. That's what I suspect Mochizuki's trying to do here. Look at this. This is basically the claw. They didn't call it that, and it's not official. He's just reaching in to Keno's midsection with both hands and squeezing. Brutal. Brutal. He's just trying to take any type of strength out of that midsection. And again, I think it applies to his dragon suplex is what he'll try to win this with. Here, they've tried to suplex one another for several moments. Each one, like, get the other one up. No, they come down. Get the other one up. No, he'd come down. Finally, Mochizuki gets kind of tired of this battle of suplex attempts. And when he gets Keno up and he isn't going over again this time, he sort of drops him hard down across that knee in his midsection, follows it up with Keno's own move off the second rope, a PFS, a double foot stomp to the midsection of Keno. Sensing a theme here from Mochizuki in his matches, he definitely is singling out body parts. Keno comes back with some kicks, lands them. Keno is one of the king of kickers. There's so many kickers in Noah, but Mochizuki is no slack in this region either, especially when he's targeting an area like the midsection that he's been working over in Keno all match long. Keno nails a big double knee shot into the corner on Mochizuki, and then comes down with what you think is going to be a PFS, a double foot stomp from the second rope from Keno, because that's his move that Mochizuki basically took from him earlier that we saw. But Keno's been using the knees as of late, sort of like, what's his name in Impact Wrestling, Bailey. John Bailey, right? No, I can't remember his first name. Bailey's move where he uses his knees off the ropes. Keno's been doing that quite a bit as of late. And he does it here with Mochizuki. Then hits a PFS, but this is just from sort of a running from the ground position as Mochizuki tries to get up. He's on all fours and Keno double stomps him in the back. Flies in with a knee to the back of the head and follows that up with a big soccer kick. You get the feeling that Keno's winding up to put this match away. But Mochizuki grabs Keno's leg in an act of desperation. You know, earlier we saw El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. grab onto the bottom rope with his legs and his arms to try to keep Fujita from further damaging him. Here, Mochizuki grabs Keno's leg as it looks like Keno's headed towards the ropes, like maybe to climb them and come off with a big PFS from the top. Mochizuki grabs his leg and will not let him process. Keno does break through, but Mochizuki holding on to him gave him time. That's all he needed, because when Keno comes off the top looking to double foot stomp, the PFS is what it's called, the chest region of Mochizuki rises up and nails Keno in the innards, in the guts, in the stomach region, and then puts him between the top and second rope, just puts him in there, inserts him like a cradle, like a baby, shoves him in there, and then runs in with a knee to the midsection. Mochizuki convinced that if he can wear down the midsection of Keno, he can beat him. That is clearly what he's thinking here. Nails a big kick to the back of the head of Keno, and then it's time for his dragon snap suplex, and he hits it hard on Keno, but Keno immediately kicks out, comes to his feet, and hits his own dragon snap suplex on Mochizuki, who is out. These two are just killing each other with everything that they have. They're, like I said, they're very similar workers, but again, I would lean towards Keno being the better of the two, but this was a fight between two guys with similar styles, and there was the result of it. I mean, towards the end of this match, both guys are down, both guys are out. Who's going to get to their feet first? Who's going to overcome the punishment both have taken? Mochizuki is the answer to that question, and he gets a quick snapdragon suplex, bridging on Keno and goes for the pin, but it's not to be had. Keno kicks out and once again nails his own bridging snapdragon suplex quickly onto Mochizuki. And folks, believe it or not, that gets the win. I mean, you saw earlier, just a few frames before this, both guys were down. Both guys were exhausted from the punishment they had been given to one another. And Mochizuki's attempt to wear down the midsection, the innards of Keno, and what I believe was a hope that he'd have a difficulty getting out of that snapdragon suplex, did not work. Instead, Keno nailed several of his own, the final one being the killing blow on Mochizuki, and Keno is your winner there. The Congo pose, one of my favorites. He has won both of the matches he has been in. He is at 4 points. You know, a lot of times champions, they go into these tournaments, and I'm not saying they look bad, but they'll get a shocking loss or something big will happen. Keno has looked as dominant as ever in this tournament. Now, he's going to encounter tougher and tougher opponents. Of course he is, but I really love how he's looking. I can't imagine the champion going through a tournament and winning it all. I think it's happened in past history, New Japan or something, but I don't know if it's ever happened in the N1. Keno trying to set standards once again, getting the big win and up to 4 points, like I said. Good stuff, great stuff. Congo all the way, baby. Boy, did I love this match. Kaito Kia Mia versus Masachetamia. Now, my Western tongue, I hope I don't get those tied up, mixed up. Kiyomiya, Kitamia. I know them, I know their names, I know who they are, I know the difference. But Kiyomiya, Kitamia, to me, is almost one letter difference. It's not technically, but to me it is. Anyhow, I digress. This was a great match up, which started with Kiyomiya taking control, knocking Masaki down, and just going for it. Like, hitting this leaping elbow early in the matchup just showed me that Kiyomiya was out for the victory in a big way. But, of course, Masachetamia is going to use his brute strength and his ridiculous ability to just move people around wherever he wants them to go with his brutality. And he fought back in that way against Kiyomiya. Here, Kitamiya got his knee driver in early. Showed me he's going to go for that prison lock. Of course he is. It's one of his major moves. But he's working over Kiyomiya's knees right away. Here he picks him up and slams him down hard on the knees. Gets him in the ropes and comes down with his full body weight. And he's a big boy, is Kiyomiya. He is Kitamiya. See, there I go, mixing the names up. He comes down hard on the leg and just wrenches away at Kiyomiya's legs as much as he can, because he's going to work him over and he's going to try to get a submission victory. There's no doubt about that. Kiyomiya does fight back as much as he possibly can, but there's something strange going on with Kiyomiya here. Number one, we see it right here. While his knees were worked over in this match, especially his left one, all match long, this is going to be a theme from Kitamiya, working his left leg, working his left knee. Kiyomiya insists on using his lower body, his legs, as his offensive maneuvers against Kitamiya. Mark pointed out on English commentary the same thing. He's like, why is he doing that? Why is he using the body parts that Kitamiya is trying to hurt and trying to injure? Doesn't make any sense. They're not going to be as strong, number one. And number two, they're going to help Kitamiya wear them down, right? At one point, Kitamiya just tosses a charging Kiyomiya over the top rope to the outside. And when he landed, he tweaked that knee even more. You can see that left knee is a problem from early on in the match for Kiyomiya. But again, there's Kitamiya working it over on the guardrail. He was very intelligent here. He knew he was taking on one of the biggest stars in the business, the supernova, if you will, actually trying to look like a supernova, I guess, in these fancy shiny tights and that bright blonde hair. I'm not a fan of it. I am a fan of both these guys. I love everybody in Noah. There's nobody in Noah I'm not a fan of, but I'm not a fan of this look. And again, Kitamiya just continues to batter away at that knee, hangs him up. This was actually, he didn't get hung in the ropes here. He did, but it was his own making. again, proving a point I've been trying to say. Kia Mia makes it back into the ring and tries to climb to the second turnbuckle and bound off with a cutter or a back elbow. Who knows what his plan was, because we didn't get to see it. He collapsed under his own weight. So once again, Kia Mia stubbornly insisting on using jumping moves, leg moves, springing moves on a bad left knee. It made no sense. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from this kid. He's still one of the best in the world beyond a shadow of a doubt. But what was he thinking in this match? Nobody really knows. And there's Kitamiya coming in with more damage on the left knee. Kia Mia finally does nail a springboard maneuver off the ropes, a big flying forearm, and he's proud of himself. So he climbs the ropes and hits a missile drop kick. Look, he did nail some of these moves. And you're going to see later some high-flying knees like this. You know, now it's the right knee, to his credit. He used the right knee here. And he hit this so hard, he flew over the top rope and had to crawl back into the ring. So, you know, yeah, great. He is a great aerial artist, beyond a shadow of a doubt, among many other things he does well. But why? Why? Look, he's got moves handed down to him from Keiji Muto, the Shining Wizard, the Figure 4. I mean, why is he not using moves like this? Why is he not using some of the moves Keiji Muto has said, you know, that he has graciously gifted him with, because he showed how good he is at them? He gave some interview before this tournament started saying how he didn't want to rely on the moves of Keiji Muto. Well, instead you're going to rely on moves of injured legs? It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. And here he came in for another flying knee. Look at the look on his face. He knows he's caught. He is caught here. And you know what Masaki is going to do? He's going to come down on that knee. He's going to injure him. And that's what he did. He came down on that knee. And as Kia Mia gets up, he's greeted with a giant lariat from Kitamiya. Down hard on the mat he goes and locked into the prison lock. This is look at the exasperation on Kia Mia's face. This is insanity that he just continues, and he will continue after this to use leg moves, use lower body moves, trying to weaken and wear down Kitamiya whenever you know there's no way he can, because those parts, his legs, have to be weakened. So he's not going to hit them as strongly. Even if they look good, they're not going to be as powerful because they're not as strong. They're worn down just by the look on his face here. And Kitamiya actually leans into this. And again, the prison lock's much like a Figure 4, but where the pressure of the leg is being pushed down instead of pried up, if you understand what I'm saying. And here Kitamiya leans forward, applying more pressure into that prison lock. Now, Kia Mia does get the ropes and get it broken up, but here's Masaki Kitamiya clipping him. Now, I played football for many years throughout high school. I played defensive end and inside linebacker, and I know what it's like to be clipped. It is not a fun experience. It is painful. It can take you out. Luckily, I was never injured from it, but it is a serious move. That's why it's a bad penalty. It's a 15-yard penalty on the offense if they clip a member of the defense, and I've been clipped many times because I was pretty good at sacking the quarterback. Here, Kitamiya just clips Kiyomiya, and that's got to just be horrible, and brings him down on that left knee once again. But look at what Kiyomiya responds with. Again, it's the right knee. It's not that injured left knee, but he has to spring up off that left knee to nail this. And while that looks crisp, it looks good, it was done well, there's no way he's getting the spring off that left knee in order to lift that right knee as hard as he normally could. There's no way with the massive amounts of damage that has been done to that left knee. And then he hits a flying drop kick. I'm perplexed. I am perplexed. Now, hey, through all this, a weakened Kia Mia is still better than 70% of wrestlers in the world today. So he did an excellent job. Please don't misunderstand. He gets a German suplex here, goes for the victory. Look at him bridging up. And one of those legs are severely injured, but he still gets the bridge, gets like a 2 9/10 count here. I'm not trying to say that, he didn't wrestle good, that he didn't almost win this match numerous times. He absolutely did. Here you see it again. Another German suplex gets 2 8/10, just a little bit shorter this time. But he's very close. It's one of those 3 counts where the ref's coming down with it and actually has to roll out of the way so he doesn't accidentally hit the 3 count, because he saw Kitamiya's shoulder come up at the last possible fraction of a second. And here we got Kia Mia nailing a big move once again and getting a backslide, trying to get the victory. See, here's what I think. I think at this point in the match, Kia Mia knew he was in trouble. He knew that if he got in this prison lock another time, that he might have to give in if he wants to live a fight another day in this tournament. So he really went balls to the walls here with backslides, German suplexes, everything he could to try to pin Kitamiya, to try to get this match to end. But it would not, because Kitamiya is one of the toughest son of a bitches in the world, even though here comes Kia Mia in with another flying right knee. Not enough. He climbs on the back of Kitamiya. I don't know what his attempt was to do here, but Kia Mia just jumps in the air. Kitamiya jumps in the air, takes all his body weight back onto Kia Mia to knock the wind out of him. But a mistake Kitamiya made here as he climbed to the rope, yelled at the top of his lungs. He was going for the super senton. He's going to jump off the top rope, which he does. Kia Mia rolls out of the way. And hitting this senton on broken boards is tough, but not tough enough to take Kitamiya out. And he grabs Kia Mia, who had rolled out of the way, absolutely, but quickly transitioned a missed maneuver into another prison lock. The exact thing Kia Mia did not need. He did not need to be locked in this move. And again, I think he had that flurry of moves just a moment ago that I went over for you. I think he hit those flurry of moves, attempting desperately to get a pin because he knew, or he suspected, my God, if I get in this prison lock again, I'm going to be in trouble. And he did bite it off until Kitamiya locked in the headlock. Now, a lot of times, Kitamiya will headbutt his opponent to the point that, much like the infamous Shibata headbutts, a trickle of blood will come down his head and down his face. But he didn't. Instead of hitting the headbutt here, and I imagine because this is a series of matches coming up day after day after day, that Kitamiya didn't want to risk a concussion, so he did not hit the headbutt here. Instead, he reared forward and grabbed Kia Mia in a headlock, a chokehold, a very, very hard front face lock under the chin, and reared up while rearing down with that prison lock. And look at that. Kia Mia had no other choice but to tap out. He has to live to fight another day. He cannot continue to resist this move on an injured leg because he wants to continue on in the tournament, I am certain. So the Supernova in his new look is 0-2 in the N1 tournament. He loses to Masaki here by submission. That's huge. Look, I love seeing Kitamiya. I miss the boy. I miss Kitamiya in Congo. I absolutely do. I wish he wouldn't have left. But he is a beast. I would love to see him go further in Noah. I would love to see him in title contention. I think he is a wonderful wrestler that I really enjoy watching. Hey, pretty much how I feel about all Noah wrestlers. But I don't think Kitamiya gets his due. And I hope this is the start of him getting just that. A big victory over Kia Mia, Kaito Kia Mia, the Supernova, laid there, sprawn out of the canvas as Masaki stands victorious, 1-1 in the tournament. Let's get to the next match. Semi-final, guys. Masato Tanaka versus Hideki Suzuki is up next, and this is going to be interesting. I mean, let's be honest here. Tanaka is not a guy who's a catch-as-catch-can guy. That's not saying he can't do it. I'm sure he can. But he's a brutalizer. He's a fighter. He's a wrestler. Suzuki is in here to play catch-as-catch-can pure wrestling. That's what this is about. Tanaka holds his own, though. I mean, you really saw this style come out of Tanaka, and I found it fascinating. Again, not because I didn't believe he could do it. I just didn't really believe he'd ever want to, even against another guy who did. But this match showed me that Tanaka is even better than I realized he was, and I always realized he was damn good. Damn good. And he looked even better here. He really hung with Suzuki in his style of match, if you can believe that. Suzuki captures him in a head scissors here, holds him tight. Now, Mochizuki worked over Hideki Suzuki's left knee there, that reconstructed knee you can see with the brace on. So I don't know how much it affected him here. I suspect it did, because I saw some of these head scissors not hold Tanaka all that well. But this was interesting. You see the times whenever someone's in a head scissors, right? And they wiggle their way out, or they do a handstand to get out. Tanaka's not going to do no handstand. Again, not because he can't. It's just not his style. You know, he's not some fancy pants, look what I can do wrestler. He's just a guy who beat your ass. And here he spread Suzuki's legs apart, as you can see with his hands there, and pulled his leg out of the head scissors. Suzuki stops him as he's lifting his head up and shoves his head back down into the head scissors. I love that. It was just little things like that make my day. But Tanaka does get out and gets a side headlock. Suzuki works the back, gets back around. This is a ground catch-as-catch-can style match, guys. Pretty much most of it, pretty much all of it. If you're not into that, you're not going to enjoy this. And they worked each other over really well. Suzuki there with the chin lock. Again, you see his braced knee. It can't be all that horrible because he's using it quite a bit, to tell you the honest truth. Here we got into Tanaka's style of game where they got the forearm smashes back and forth. Of course, almost every human being in Japan does this. If you wrestle in Japan, I think it's a rule that you have to do it. That favors Tanaka every time. But Suzuki with the big scoop slam and back to the scissors. So this time a body scissors. And this was a brutal body scissors. You see moves like this again. I hate to poo-poo, other wrestling, but it's just the truth. You see a move like this in most other wrestling, and it's looked at as like, okay, that's not too exciting. But here, Suzuki practically made this man submit. He attempted to pin him several times with this maneuver. Look at the excruciating look on Tanaka's face. Things like this make my day. Wrestling holds and moves are supposed to hurt. Almost dropped the F-bomb there. They're supposed to hurt. They're not supposed to be just some going through the motions, paint by numbers. Now it's time to do this while I whisper sweet nothings in your ear about the moves that are coming next. That's not what wrestling is supposed to be. And Suzuki, guys like Suzuki, why I love catch-as-catch-can, why I love pure wrestling, they really make it look legitimate. And this absolutely looked legitimate. Tanaka does come back out of it with a tornado DDT. Really vicious-looking tornado DDT. And a big clothesline in the corner on Suzuki. The match goes to the outside, and Tanaka hits not a sliding D, but a sort of a running D, his finishing maneuver, off the apron onto Suzuki, who's on the floor, and it was pretty bad. Tanaka takes control then with some body slams, but here's where he loses control. He goes for one of his superfly splashes, and Suzuki gets the knees up. And that is taking Tanaka down, and he suffers a backbreaker as well shortly after that. Here's a little bit of throwback. I can't call this the Garvin stomp, but it was damn close, and I loved it. Suzuki stomped on Tanaka's left ankle. Then he went up and stomped on his left wrist. Then he stomped on his right ankle, and then stomped on his right wrist, preparing him to be stretched out, hurting him, injuring parts of his body, the joints of his body, the small joints, that are major needs in the midst of a professional wrestling match. And I love this. The Garvin stomp back in the old JCP days was a little sillier than this. This was more realistic. I accept that. But I still like that. It's just brutal. It just says to me, look, I'm looking to beat this guy's ass. And there he goes, stomping on the wrist, like I said. And then he gets that head twist move where he locks his opponent's head between his feet and ankles and just twists his body. And cranking and craning the neck of his opponent, this time Tanaka. Suzuki goes for an abdominal stretch, an octopus stretch, because this is more than abdominal, really trying to work over Tanaka, but Tanaka really does well to fight against it. So Suzuki bends him down further, places his head under his reconstructed left knee, and yanks back even more. Tanaka escapes and delivers a sliding D. I mean, this was just fast. He escaped from this stretch move, bounded into the ropes, came in, boom, sliding D. Thought it could be over. Mark and Stu on commentary thought he might have knocked Suzuki out as well. But he did not. You can see Suzuki barely getting up from that. Tanaka lying there in what I believe is frustration. I think Tanaka believed he ended it there. Whenever he ran in and nailed that sliding D, his finishing maneuver, I believe he thought, okay, this is it. And when he looked up and looked over and saw Suzuki crawling away, he was somewhat exasperated. So he goes for another desperate move, gets Suzuki on the top rope and hits it, delivers a big suplex neck breaker off the top rope. But Suzuki bounds up instantly. I mean, I don't know, just fighting spirit, I guess. He bounds up instantly, picks up Tanaka, and delivers that driving pile driver. The scoop slam fall into a pile driver that he has in his arsenal, and that was pretty wicked. But doesn't pin him. He gets a 2 count from that, and before you know it, Tanaka's on the top rope, successfully nailing the superfly leap that he tried to nail earlier. But that doesn't get the pinfall. It only gets a 2 count. Suzuki locks in what looks to be like an Indian deathlock of some sort, or a Texas cloverleaf. Something that he's going for here. But instead, he locks those legs together in that fashion and just leans into it. Leans into that submission type move. It's not enough to make Tanaka submit. So he transitions where he holds that Indian death style lock, that Texas cloverleaf sort of lock, with his legs. This time, if you notice, using his right leg to hold that, not his reconstructed knee. He's using his much stronger right leg to hold that leg lock while he leans up. This is sort of a modified STF. Leans up and gets a grip around Tanaka's head and pulls backward. Tanaka's still not going to give up. Tanaka, you could probably count on two hands and have fingers left how many matches Tanaka has ever lost by submission. But here, Suzuki leans up even further, gets a tighter grip around that head and neck, and pulls backward. And Suzuki, even Tanaka, I mean, the mighty Tanaka, like I said, who seldom loses by submission, taps out here. He can take no more. Hideki Suzuki, 4 points. There's only so many guys who are up to 4 points already. Hideki Suzuki is one of them. His style is working. Big props to Masato Tanaka, who worked the catch-as-catch-can style more than I ever seen him work before and did tremendously at it. But ultimately, Hideki Suzuki controlled this match. At least his style and approach controlled it. And I think that Tanaka, really needed to work harder to turn this into more of a brawl, more of a fight, more of his style. He did not. He sort of bent to the will of Suzuki in the style of match they were going to have, which happens a lot with Hideki Suzuki. And the victory goes to the man whose style controlled the match. That is Hideki Suzuki. Big win for him. Like I said, I didn't look it up, but I really doubt Tanaka has been submitted very many times in his career at all. Mark and Stu on commentary pointed out that he has 500 wins in single matches. Tanaka does. 500. And Hideki Suzuki, I think, had like 130. I mean, that's taking nothing away from Hideki Suzuki, and Tanaka's been around a long time, but 500 wins in singles matches is damn impressive. But the person with that record, Tanaka, goes down to the younger Hideki Suzuki, who's bringing the catch style to anyone he faces in this tournament. And honestly, Funaki's the only one I can think that could stand up, and he's already beaten Suzuki. So we'll see where this leads. But another great match, semifinal, Hideki Suzuki, your winner. And we end with the main event of main events. Congo versus Congo. Masakatsu Funaki taking on Katsuhiko Nakajima. And in a way, I'm in wrestling heaven, and in a way, I'm in wrestling purgatory, and I've got to fight my way out. I don't know which it is, but I know this is a match that I absolutely adore. There comes Nakajima, the badass himself. I think should be the GHC heavyweight champion, although I'm a fan of Keno. Big fan of Keno. But I just think this guy has the charisma unlike anybody else. Look at him. He's just a badass dude. I like him. But then here comes Funaki. Masakatsu Funaki, a man who is a year older than me. Looks like $1 million. The national champion, the GHC national champion. Who's going to dethrone this guy? Nobody that I see coming anytime soon. Now, this match is a fight. This match is MMA style. This style is work shoot style. And I absolutely treasured and adored it. This was about takedowns. This was about guards, being in guard, purposely dropping down to your guard, side control, mounting. That's what this was. And it was done terrifically. This was Funaki had Nakajima in a headlock down on the ground. Nakajima managed to stand up, did not break the hold, but stumbled, ran purposely or not quite sure, into the ropes to break the hold. This was two wrestlers using their brains. All right, here we got another. Nakajima has got Funaki in his guard. He's got his legs crossed up over him. He's trying to keep Funaki from rearing up so he can strike. That's why he's got his hands clasped. I don't want to sit here and sound like an MMA expert because I'm not. I used to love MMA. I used to watch UFC way back in the day. I'm talking when the Iceman was big and Tito Ortiz and all those guys. Loved those guys back then. Randy Couture. But anymore, not for me. But, I do remember some of it. I do remember some of the basics. And this is what it was. Getting to the ropes to break holds. Getting to the ropes to get out of guards. Getting to the ropes to keep from being struck. Now, at this point, Funaki actually drops down and pretty much invites Nakajima into his guard. Go ahead and come in here. I'm not afraid to be on my back. Nakajima backs up, crosses his legs, and just sort of relaxes, looking at him like, you think I'm stupid? We work together. We train together. We are Congo. You know me, but I know you. And I'm not coming into that mess. But he eventually does. Nakajima actually loses some of his patience and gets tied up, if you will. I tweeted this out. I love this quote from Stu Fulton on commentary, English commentary. He said, "This is what Nakajima doesn't need. He doesn't need this. He doesn't need to be tangled in the spider web that Funaki is great at weaving." I'm paraphrasing that. I posted the actual quote on Twitter, but it's something like that, and I loved it. It's because it's exactly right. Funaki is just incredible at weaving a spider web. He can entice you into it. Sometimes you don't see it coming. And before you think you got him in a vulnerable position, and before you know it, you're tied up in some god-awful position that you don't know how you got in, let alone how to get out of. Nakajima does play it smart, drops down, does start to try to strike Funaki. And as you can see, Funaki doesn't quite have his guard fully sunk in, so Nakajima is landing some, but then he winds up in this position. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You get tied up, you get trapped by this guy with these long limbs and this expertise, and before you know it, you're tapping out. Now, that didn't happen here, but Nakajima's in a very dangerous position. He does get out and nails an enziguri and a dragon screw. This is, if you want to do good against Masakatsu Funaki, you study this tape. Because you have got to be aggressive. Now, what blows my mind here is that I've watched Nakajima wrestle other guys where he's not this aggressive. Now, don't get me wrong. He can be ridiculously aggressive. But like Fujita. And when he is aggressive, he backs off somewhat and cuts some slack. And that's how he lost his title. But here, he went all out, move after move with the enziguri, with the dragon screw, with the STF. Because once you have a man like Funaki down, once you have someone who's a master of groundwork, grounded, you don't want to give him an ounce of space. You don't want to give him a slice of time. You just don't, or you will pay for it. Even here, Funaki's managing to push Nakajima upward so his strikes aren't as hard, so his strikes aren't going to be as effective. So Nakajima does get him out of the ring because Funaki breaks it up going into the ropes and staying aggressive. Nakajima comes in, nails a big boot to the head, knocks him down, punts him by running down the ring apron, takes it outside, throws him into the guardrail, kicks him, throws him into the ring post, kicks him, rolls him back into the ring in the corner, kicks him. But here's Nakajima's mistake. This is what he's known for. He calls this showtime, all right? And even against a friend, even against somebody who's in the same team as him, he's got to do a little showing off. This is Nakajima. Sure, it's part of the reason I like him, but there are times you have to forsake this kind of thing. And I think he should have forsaken it here. All this is doing is, number one, angering Funaki. Number two, giving him time to recuperate, because as embarrassing as this is, as humiliating as it is having somebody's feet propped on your face for leverage to lean on the ropes and pose for the camera, gives them a good swift kick and then does it again. And actually looks into the camera and says showtime. And like I said, this is great a lot of times. But there are certain opponents you just don't want to do this with. So he's done it twice now. That's 2-3 minutes that he has given Funaki to recuperate, to get his breath back, to recover from those blows outside the ring. And that's exactly what happened. Even though Nakajima kept up the kicks, when he came in for one, Funaki lifted his knee and about knocked the living hell out of Nakajima. I thought it might have been over here. I wouldn't have been shocked if it was, because look at it. Look, you're not even seeing the full result of that blow. Nakajima was down, and he was cornered, and he started to get kicks laid into him. He got a running soccer kick, and then Funaki got his back. Might have been a mistake by Funaki. Maybe he should have went for the pin there. I think maybe he should have went for the pin after that knee, to tell you the truth. Nakajima looked out. He looked out. But instead, he kicks him around a little more, gives him a little more punishment, then tries to lock in a chokehold. Nakajima blocks it. Nakajima, it looks a little bad there, but you can see he doesn't have that fully engaged. Nakajima was prepared for it, comes back with kicks of his own. Then they start trading kicks back and forth. Again, typical for Japanese fighters like this to have a prideful moment. Bring it on. I can take what you can give. And the other one's like, okay, I can do that too. And they have this battle back and forth for some time where they're kicking and kicking back and forth to see who is the most powerful, to see who eventually can't take the other one's kicks. Nakajima catches Funaki during one of these kicks and delivers a big suplex to him, puts him on the top rope and runs in with a knee lift. Now, in the same way I thought Nakajima was out, I thought Funaki might have had it here. I thought this might have been it. I mean, this was a massive knee lift to the midsection. Look at him. But look at Nakajima. Nakajima, now the referee did back Nakajima off so he could check the condition of Funaki. Granted. But the minute Nakajima realized that he wasn't out, he should have pounced. He should have taken care of this, but he was a little bit too braggadocious to do that. He does come in and get a lifted knee, but you can see here Funaki is using his right hand to sort of rear back with this so he doesn't absorb the kick fully. It's a smart move from Funaki's part. He then starts taking those kicks where Nakajima kicks you in the front and in the back and forth. Kicks you in the chest, kicks you in the back. Kicks you in the chest, kicks you in the back. Nakajima is famous for this. It's a wear down move. He's getting ready to go for a pinfall when he starts hitting these kicks. And that's exactly what he does here. After he gets these kicks on, he picks Funaki up and he's trying to get the suplex position for his vertical spike brainbuster. One of the most vicious moves in wrestling, the best brainbuster in wrestling, I would argue. And it's what he beat Funaki with last year in this same tournament. If Nakajima nails any human being on the face of this earth with this vertical spike, he's going to win the matchup. And he tries desperately to get this, but Funaki actually turns it into a Fujiwara armbar. That doesn't do it, so they get into a striking position. And both of them are striking back and forth. And let me tell you, Nakajima can knock a bitch out with these, but so can Funaki. And Funaki nails the similar type of strike that Nakajima has been knocking guys out with. He nails it hard, and Nakajima goes down hard. But Funaki doesn't give him space. Funaki doesn't play around. Funaki doesn't pose for the crowd. He picks Nakajima up and nails that driving pile driver of his, that tombstone style pile driver, that like from his shoulder down into a tombstone pile driver. And that's it. He turns Nakajima's lights out with that big palm slap to the face and the head, followed by that driving pile driver, and gets the 1, 2, 3. Now, sadly, folks, that's what I predicted on my last video. I predicted that one of my all-time favorites, Nakajima, would go down here because Funaki has been in another world. He's the national champion, but he's been nearly unbeatable. Time and again, he's defeated people. And I think Nakajima was capable of beating Funaki and could have, but he plays a little bit too much sometimes against guys he should never play when he's in the ring with. And Funaki takes advantage and gets the win, thanks him here. This is actually a moment of emotion between the two of them. And Funaki celebrates with his national championship, said on the mic that he's looking forward to facing Keno. That's the man he beat for that national title. They're in opposite blocks, so if they face off, it won't be soon, but they might face off if they both keep winning and things keep going the way they are. And Funaki says he's looking forward to it. There he is with a beautiful GHC national title, just talking about this tournament, talking about Keno, talking about his success, and looking forward to anything from this point on. What an amazing main event. What an amazing show. Easy 11 out of 10 show. This show was terrific. It was absolutely beautiful. I loved everything about it. This was wrestling done right, for sure. I'm going to get going, guys, because I'm trying not to drag these videos out as long as I typically can and usually do. So thank you for joining me. Check back later for my preview of tonight's show, or is it tomorrow night? Tomorrow morning is when it is here on the East Coast. Third night of the N1. I'm going to preview that in a quick video, just run through the matches and give you my thoughts on them quickly. Again, I'm trying to spare you the time like I'm not doing here. So have a good day, everybody. Thanks for joining me. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, please. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you the next time.